Yeah. By the way, how many dynasty leagues are you in right now? What's your count up to?
82, 83, 82, 83.
At this time last year, what was your team count?
Well over 100 because I've sold about 30 of my teams already, so I'm down to about 80 right now.
Okay, all right. So and are they all on FFPC?
Yes, everything's FFPC with me.
Yeah, which is smart, and we'll tell everyone why that is, and we'll get into all that stuff. And also, what I do is, what I've been doing with these podcasts is I've been doing like a little bit of a pre-recorded intro, so people could understand who you are and why you're here today. But hey, what do you think it is about Dynasty fantasy football that attracts this? I mean, the redraft players, there's more casual redraft players than there are Dynasty players. Like Dynasty players, like, what do you think that common thread that all makes us so maniacal about the whole thing?
Well, it's an all year round thing, right? So everybody thinks they're a general manager, right? So you draft players, play the league. But Dynasty, everybody thinks they're better than their home. I think I'm better than Howie Roseman. I don't understand the moves he makes, right?
The general manager for the Eagles.
Right? So you do that, and you look at things. I mean, you look at Mike Mayock, right? Absolutely love the guy. Okay, met him, know him, Philly guy, goes out to the Raiders and train wreck, right? Thinks Alex Leatherwood is a good idea. We don't want to wait till the fourth round or everybody else. We'll take them late in the first, right? So that's the Dynasty guy. They think they're better. And that's really the allure to the whole thing is scheming, planning, long-term, short-term, win now. You're doing the same thing as the general manager in the NFL. And that's really the allure, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Mayock specifically, and some of the. By the way, we're going to be talking about in Dynasty our buy low running backs today. I'm here with Nelson from Dynasty Depot. We're going to get into what exactly he's bringing to the Dynasty community, which everybody knows you by now. But for those who are new that are tuning into this podcast for the first time, Nelson has started a business, DynastyDepot.com, where you can buy, sell, and trade teams, and we're going to get into all that. And also, at the end, I want to talk, I don't know if you got my text, but I want to talk about Dynasty Fantasy Football cliches, because I think some of them actually, they're cliches for a reason. They have merit, all right? But start with this.
How long or not.
Right. So, right. Well, they have merit on being ridiculous, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. And what we could do is, first, how long have you been playing Dynasty for? I mean, I've people ask me that all the time, and I've been playing for 10 years, but as a serious player, only maybe like 6 years, 5 years. How long have you been doing Dynasty in a serious way?
And it's about the same timeline as you. Actually, I'm late to fantasy football. I got introduced to fantasy football maybe 10 years ago. Where a friend, we were out in Vegas, and he said, "You want to draft this FFPC main event team with me?" I went and did it. Got hooked. Dynasty was about 5 years ago, and it falls under the same concept of what happened with Dynasty Depot is that you're looking for something to do to stay active in the fantasy community. You want a year-round project, right? You don't want the season ended a few weeks ago. It's not the same, right? It's just not the same now. You're more up to date with people because you're studying rookies and you're just more involved. It makes you a better redraft player if you are a Dynasty player.
And by the way, you just mentioned rookies. We're going to talk about our buy low running backs. I mean, I did this. I did a buy low wide receiver video, and I tend to lean towards the older vet players as buy lows because it's funny that when the redraft rankings come out, a lot of these buy low guys, people are, redraft players be like, how is this guy a buy low? This is a top 30 overall pick. But in Dynasty, players like Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, they fall to like the 7th round, whereas they would go like in the 3rd round. So when we talk about buy lows, just conceptually, what type of players are you going to be talking about today from the running back position?
So I have a mixture of players. I have some older guys. I have some younger guys. I have people that just aren't valued correctly. The same. I have a couple guys year after year drafted in the wrong spots, year after year, halfway through the year. You wish you had that guy. Why didn't I take him there? So it's really one of the terms which I hate, which it's not on my list, value, which is a horrible word, but people seem to use it constantly. Right. And it's, that's what you're looking for, but you're looking for consistency, right? So when you're in redraft dynasty, it doesn't matter. You're looking for a guy that you could put in as a no-brainer, fill in your lineup spot in either format. And that's what I'm looking for in some of these buy low guys.
It's interesting that you mentioned consistency. So when you talk about basic strategy for dynasty, with running backs, I mean, consistency is the ultimate. That's it. If you get it, you put them in there. But I don't have as high standards as you. I don't think I can draft guys that are consistent unless I'm taking them with my first 2 picks. I'm looking for projectability. And what I mean by that, Nelson, is that I don't care if I draft a running back as long as I know when he's getting the start and he's getting 15 touches and I can put him in. Someone like Chase Edmonds, for example, and I don't know if he's on your list or not.
He is not on my list.
Okay, neither am I, because I don't want him either. But if his backfield mate is out of the game and Chase Edmonds is starting, I know I could put him in with confidence. So I'm looking for more projectability, but you hit it. The holy grail is consistency. But how many running backs are really consistent, right? What, 10, 11?
Well, yes and no. Yes, that you think and you can count on mentally no-brainers. I put a little bit of a list together here that I think I can count on. Whether it be an RB2 or a flex, he'd be able to go into my lineup every week. I don't have to think about it. Okay. Listen, there's only so many McCaffreys and Cooks and Taylors. Okay. There's a few of those guys. You got to fill out a 10 slot lineup, right? So you need guys that fit in all the time. And I think I got some of those guys that are not first, second, third round kind of draft pick people that I'm looking for next year to put into my lineups.
Okay, cool. And now, if you're going to do it, I'm assuming you're going to do a couple more startups this offseason?
I will do probably 50.
50 startups. Okay, so when I say some, I mean a lot. I didn't know that. Okay, that's amazing. So what is your basic dynasty strategy? FFPC format, is it 2-2-2, 2 flex, 2 receivers, or do they add a third receiver in their standard dynasty format now?
The thing is they've added they threw a wrench into it last year. They came out with a triflex league.
Okay, so there's 3 flexes and 3 receivers?
It's 3 flexes and 2 quarterback and it's a super flex triflex.
On this podcast, we always assume super flex. That is like we are not even acknowledging 1 QB. I'm kidding for all you 1 QB players out there, but we want to talk about everything in terms of super flex, because dynasty players that are listening to this podcast in January and in February, they're super flex players. They're not 1 QB players, and if they understand how to handle the quarterback position. So answer this though: is FFPC, is it 3 receivers, 3 flex, or is it 2 receivers, 3 flex?
A standard FFPC lineup in Superflex is 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex.
Okay, so that devalues the wide receiver position slightly compared to maybe some of the other platforms or some of the other leagues that I'm in.
It does. Now they've come out with the triflex, which is 3 receivers, 2 flex, Superflex.
Oh, so I gotcha. All right. So that boosts the value of the wide receiver. I think because of the depth of receiver, you do need to have 3 receivers in there, or else it's like you could just wait till like the 9th or 10th round to get your receivers. So, I agree. Say again?
I agree.
Yeah. So what is your strategy going in? Are you a wide receiver early guy? I mean, you just kind of let the cat out of the bag there, but how do you go into these super flex drafts? Like, how do you usually attack your first couple picks?
So it's funny because it's the end of the year, and as we discussed, I have 83 teams, 82 teams, and I analyze what I did wrong, what I did right, what teams won, and what was the make up the configuration of my winners versus the losers. I've always been a very high running back guy. Okay, always been very high. Figure you got to have 3, 4, 5 backs. This year, all of my winning teams were wide receiver heavy teams. So, when you go through a year like we did this year with so many injuries and the COVID and people out, the running backs, they're picking up, the people off the street. You look at what won me a ton of leagues, picking up Justin Jackson in week 10 or 11 whenever I picked them up. So there was a lot of that stuff this year. So I go in, and I'm just going to go in a little more receiver heavy this year than I normally have, just because of the makeup of my teams and what I saw happen this year.
Yeah, I agree with you there that last year in my startups, I went running back. First three of my first four picks were running backs.
Right.
I had the DeAndre Swifts, Antonio Gibson, and you're right. I was banking on these Jarvis Landry, Robbie Anderson types. That didn't work out. It is definitely, let's say, easier to find running backs on the waiver wire because you can project, hey, who is the running back 3 on this team that could get elevated, right? Whereas wide receiver, it's very rare to pick up a wide receiver. But there was a couple. Wait, who was the big one? I guess if Cordell Patterson, I guess he's considered a wide receiver, but that's kind of cheap. Was there any wide receivers that were pick up and play for the rest of the year type of? I guess KJ Osborne was kind of like, here and there.
Yeah, I mean, nobody you're picking up and starting consistently. Obviously.
Yeah, no Elijah Mitchells.
Right. No, you're not going to find that in wide receivers. It's harder because you're talking about one back, right? One back, he's either getting the ball, not getting the ball. It's not the old days where there was 2 running backs or wishbone or whatever you're running here. You got one running back. When you're going receiver, to bring in a receiver, when one goes down, you still have your 1 or your 2 that's still out there on a team. You still have the tight ends. You're still throwing to the backs. They're not as able to make an impact like a running back coming off the waiver wire.
And just to remember that the RotoWire Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast is sponsored by WynnBET. And if there's one thing we appreciate here at RotoWire, it's making good decisions, even more so making the right decision. Listen up, folks. I have an incredible offer for you with RotoWire's newest partner, WynnBET, the premier digital casino and sportsbook app. WynnBET is now the exclusive sponsor of RotoWire's Fantasy Dynasty podcast. WynnBET brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, money line bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, so much more at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into their digital casino. WynnBET is currently available in 8 states while rapidly expanding. WynnBET, the possibilities are limitless. WynnBET is currently offering RotoWire listeners a risk-free bet up to $500 for your first wager. Download WynnBET now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBET, the exclusive partner of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Alan Seslowsky from RotoWire here with Nels V from the Dynasty Depot at the Dynasty Depot, DynastyDepot.com. And we're going to be talking about buy low running backs. And then we're going to talk to you about Nelson's, what he does over at his website and his business. It's going to blow your mind if you're not already familiar with this, because one of the biggest questions that I get is, oh my God, I'm in so many leagues. How the hell do I get rid of some of these leagues? Do you know anyone that could take over a team? Nelson has solved your problem. He has solved your problem. He has created the eBay for Dynasty fantasy football teams. So stick around if you want to hear about that. All right, Nelson. I'm always looking, like I said, in my teams that are wide receiver heavy to add running backs that may have fallen in value, 1-year rentals, 2-year rentals. Who's your first buy low running back?
Well, I'm going to go against what you just said there, not looking on the rental. I'm going to talk about a guy that's consistently drafted in the 3rd, 4th, sometimes down to the 5th round. There's only one guy, a bell cow, that you're getting there with an up-and-coming quarterback, some good stuff. I am loving next year David Montgomery. Absolutely loving him. Okay, so everything I say is going to be in terms of FFPC scoring, okay, which is a 1.5 point tight end premium league, 1 point PPR, right? So David Montgomery this year, and we know he was hurt a bunch. Okay, got banged up, missed some games. Herbert came in, did a nice job there. Still ran for 849 yards, 42 receptions, and a little bit of limited action. For me, that's a guy I target. I probably have 40 shares of this guy. I can plug him in every week, whether it's RB2 into a flex spot, whatever I want. He's consistent. The man gets the ball, and he's better than people think he is.
I have him. Let's see. I'm just looking at the RotoWire Fantasy Football Dynasty rankings, Superflex rankings, where I have him. Also, he finished as RB22 this year. That's in total points on a per game average. I don't have that in front of me right now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, also one of my former broadcasting partners, the geek over at DFS Army, he loves David Montgomery. He consistently he would be creaming right now that you
guy. I like.
So. And he had a little bit of a down year versus where he was last year. So that is a really good buy low. I have him as RB18. Is that fair for startup drafts? Do you like that ranking? Do you think I'm too low?
It's probably close. I probably put him as a top 15 back. Now, you got to remember in redraft and Dynasty, we're talking a little bit of different things here.
We're talking Dynasty on this podcast.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So it's probably fairly accurate. But what did we say earlier? It's a guy you don't have to think about. If you own him, you're plugging him in, yet you're getting a value on this guy as an RB18. If you do go wide receiver heavy, quarterback heavy, whatever you want to do, and that ends up being your RB1, you could do a lot worse.
Last year, 2021, Khalil Herbert ascended from the RB3 to, quickly to the RB2, and then filled in for 2-3 weeks admirably for David Montgomery. Do you think his role will increase next year? And again, I still love the David Montgomery pick. I think that's a really sharp pick. He's actually he was on my list too. I scratched him off now. I'm glad you said him first. But how do you think, if at all, that Khalil Herbert's role eats into Montgomery?
I don't. I think he's a backup running back there. Okay. I think Montgomery's the kind of guy. I see clips because he likes to talk a little bit. I see clips with him yapping, and he wants the ball. He commands the ball from the team. He's good enough to get the ball. Okay, he can catch the ball. I like him. I don't feel like Herbert eats into him a lot.
Okay, so and they have a new coach over there now, right? It's the former defensive coordinator of the Colts. So it's how do you say this guy? It's Eberflus. How do you say his name?
Eberflus.
I don't. Admittedly, I don't know much about him. So, do you think that this affects? Right, he's probably a defensive coordinator. He's probably like, hey, I have a bell cow running back. So,
correct.
When we say buy low, give me a couple type of deals you think. Like, what would you offer someone to extract David Montgomery? Because, as you said, the Montgomery owner may be down on the player, but how many is he gettable at this point? Like, isn't the Montgomery owner?
He is. And how I would approach that is probably from the wide receiver aspect. I think you can get a David Montgomery for a Keenan Allen that I'm looking to start to fade. Okay. It's going to start to fade him a little bit here.
He'll be 30 years old when the season starts.
He'll be 30 years old. And that Josh Palmer kid is another guy we'll talk about another day that's going to be taking some snaps. That's how I'd go get David Montgomery. It's probably a fair trade. So somebody that, looking to add to their wide receiver core, got an extra, he's the fourth running back on a roster, third running back. I think you can extract him.
Yeah, and you and I talk offline a lot. We say, you hear a lot of advice on Dynasty podcasts. It's like, hey, go get Christian McCaffrey. Okay, how do I do that? I know he's sort of damaged a little bit. But we want to give you actionable strategies on how to extract these players. So Keenan Allen is a pretty penny. So it's buying low. To say it's buying low may be a miss, because Keenan Allen's a high value asset, but you're trying to see two guys where one's going up, one's descending. So you're trying to, I see what you're saying. So that isn't interesting because right now it may seem like a fair trade, like you said, but in 16 months, 14 months from now, you might have been like, oh, wow, I got the best of this one. All right. I like that.
But you're also looking at, hey, maybe this guy needs one big wideout to win it all next year. Right. Okay. So you have to know listen, anytime you're trading players, you got to know who you're dealing with. You don't just look at somebody's roster and say, oh, that's a fit. You got to look, where's this guy heading? Okay, what's in this guy's head that I'm trying to make a trade? What's going to say, yeah, this guy gets me over the top? Or, you know what, I'm rebuilding. I got no interest in a Keenan Allen. I'm looking to sell Keenan Allen. Montgomery's the kind of guy, I like him. I like him a lot.
All right. I'm gonna, for my first buy low running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football, I'm gonna make a lot of people throw up their breakfast right now. But I am buying Ezekiel Elliott everywhere I can. The guy has never been cheaper. He's going to be going into his age 27 season. He is under lock and key for at least 2 more seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. And we know for sure this season. And it doesn't matter that everyone that thinks that Tony Pollard's better. The Dallas Cowboys' identity is Zeke Elliott. He had a little bit of a down year. He reportedly had some injuries that he played through. So instead of sitting out, he played through them. And in redraft, he's going to be a late first round pick, early second round pick. Yep. And right now, you could get him. If you're in a rookie draft and you have pick 111, 112, 110, there is going to be leagues. And I would say 6 out of every 10 leagues you're in, somebody that wants that first round pick for Elliott. Elliott has never been cheaper. And he's not going to be any less productive likely than he was this year. And talk about a set it and forget it. Zeke's an all-timer, man. And I know that he's heading a different direction than some of these ascending running backs, but that's why this segment's buy low. Right. If everyone needs a running back in Dynasty, everyone needs a running back. There's no one that's like, I'm set. I got it. No problem. Very few teams have Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, and a third running back that's, a top 5 running back on their roster. So talk about buy low. Sometimes you got to go ugly. Let me hear your rebuttal, agreement, disagreement, whatever it is on buying low on Zeke Elliott.
I have 2 thoughts. The first thought that pops into my head is I hate him.
Yeah, of course. That's why he's a buy low.
Well, I'm from Philly, so I just hate him. Couple thoughts here. So what you said is extremely accurate. Okay. You're never going to be able to get him lower. You're probably able to plug him in. Pollard's probably a better player. Mm-hmm. Blah, blah, blah. Yes. But that contract is ugly. He's not going anywhere. Okay. And that's Dak's buddy. They're not upsetting the apple cart. My gut feeling with Elliott next year is Dallas probably puts it together a little more next year, and he probably has a big year next year. He probably does. But there's no mistake about this. He's lost a step, half a step, maybe a full step. The chunk yardages, is he good at, putting the head down and grabbing 5-6 yards? He's still as good as anybody at that. But he's not ripping off those runs like he used to. They're using Pollard more. If I had a contending team and I'm drafting 111, 112, I like the move.
Yeah,
if I have any type of future, I'm looking any type into the future, that's not a guy for me. But you see him sitting on a lot of rosters. I'm going to rebuild. What can I get? You probably get him for 110, 111 right now. You probably could. And it's probably a good buy, even if he's your third running back next year.
I made in one of my dynasty leagues where I was going to make a run. And by the way, I didn't win the championship this league. I made a move that I kind of regret. I don't know if I regret it yet, but I acquired Zeke for the playoff push, and I gave away Javonte Williams, but it wasn't straight up. I also got the first round pick. So I got Zeke in a first for Javonte Williams, because as you know, Javonte Williams, right now, even though he hasn't done it yet, is one of the, he's consensus top 5, top 7 running back. I've seen him as high as 3. Let me see where I have him. Let me see how crazy I got with him. Yeah, I have him at 4, which is probably a little nuts. And again, for someone that has,
it's nuts at all. It's not nuts at all.
So, but anyway, that was so let's who's your number 2 buy low running back for Dynasty Fantasy Football?
So we talked about this guy, and I'm going to stay on the upper tier, okay? Not buy low, but with the coaching change, and we've discussed this guy. Josh Jacobs is a buy low for me. He's another guy. I'm looking for a guy that carries the mail, right? That I'm getting in the 4th, 5th, maybe 6th round, probably 4 or 5 kind of thing. That's the kind of guy I'm looking for. Okay. Josh Jacobs is good at football if he's used correctly. Now, here's a surprising stat. Just take a guess. How many catches do you think he had this year?
Okay, so I haven't looked at this, and in my mind, I'm leading up to it. I'm answering your question. In my mind, he's been a suboptimal pass catcher, right? I'm just going on perceptions now. So, and I don't know. So my guess would be probably, is it 23?
That's close. But if you had said 58, you would have been right on the number.
So there you go. But there you go. And we're pretty in tune with market perception. And I have that number.
Correct. And that's why me and you, we're me and you.
Yeah.
Market perception is he doesn't catch the football. They don't throw him the football. Okay. He caught 58 balls. Okay. You get a coach that's going to leave him on the field a little more. This guy's a 1,000-yard rusher and a 65-catch guy that you're going to get in the 4th round. That's not a low buy, but, that's a hell of a buy.
No, that's a low buy because he was a 2nd-round startup pick, 3rd-round startup pick last year, or maybe even the year before. I'm just looking. I'm in a startup right now, Nelson. I'm looking to see where he went.
I'm going to guess 4.5.
Okay, so this is Superflex.
Yeah, maybe 5.2.
7.5.
Okay. So what if I gave you a 1,000-yard rusher? By the way, he also rushed for 955 yards this year on a dysfunctional team with a dysfunctional coaching staff and a lunatic GM, right? So 955 yards, 58 catches, okay? Total yardage, the man all-purpose yardage had almost 1,300 yards. That's my guy. Let's go back to what we said. Load up. Receiver, quarterback, whatever you're doing, and then you come around in round 5, 6, 7, around there with a Montgomery Jacobs backfield with big receivers and a couple big QBs.
You're in business.
Not a bad way to go.
So let me ask you some either ors on Jacobs, Montgomery or Jacobs. Sorry to make you choose between your two buy lows. Or is it they're just back to back? Whatever one's there, you'll just take.
I would take either one of them. If they're both sitting in front. If they're both sitting in front of me, I take Montgomery.
Okay, so that's fair. But back to back, you're not hating the other one. How about Zeke Elliott? Well, you don't like Zeke Elliott, so that's a silly question. How about someone like Leonard Fournette? Let's assume for a second Tom Brady comes back. Fournette's back on the Bucs, like the good version of Fournette. Because if Fournette goes to a suboptimal situation, there's a little uncertainty. But would you take Leonard Fournette or Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs.
Okay. How about Michael Carter on the Jets, the 2nd-year running back? Would you take? Where do you rank him?
He's coming up in a conversation with me. Interesting guy. Josh Jacobs.
Okay. Cam Akers or Josh Jacobs?
Cam Akers all day.
Right.
I think what we saw is pretty obvious the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Guys coming off an injury, laid 2 on the ground, almost disastrous. Was right back in there yesterday. Now he busted up his shoulder yesterday. That's why he lost carries. He hurt his shoulder yesterday. I think he's a pretty special talent, and he's a McVay guy, period. You could just see that. I mean, the fact that they put him back on the field after those fumbles, Cam Akers, high pick for me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we think of him, but you always got to say, what does the coach think of him? And like you said, that's one of his pet picks. It's like Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp obviously is amazing, but that was a McVay pick right there. So, all right, my next buy low. Now I'm going to go with the younger side things now. I like Travis Etienne as a buy low. Now the buy low window is starting. With the James Robinson injury, got shut down a little bit there. I think, Nelson, you froze. There you go. Can you see me okay, Nelson?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the buy low window is not as low as it was, a month and a half ago. But Travis Etienne, it's the out of sight, out of mind thing for dynasty players. He's let's talk about all the positive first. Former 1st-round pick, dynamic pass-catching running back. He's going to be paired with his college quarterback. Suffers the unthinkable, preseason injury. Should be back for the preseason, and then James Robinson tears his Achilles late in the season. The market is unsure. The early dynasty market is not push Travis Etienne up. I think you could still get him as a buy low versus where he will be after there's practice reports of him lighting it up. So if you're interested in Travis Etienne, a young running back with high pedigree, this is the time. This is the time to work a deal where, you can trade away, Derrick Henry. get Travis Etienne in a pick, something like that. Where, there's dynasty players like myself who value the veterans a lot more than the market. So I think that where we are now versus where we're going to be, Travis Etienne is a buy low. Talk to me through on your takes on Travis Etienne.
So that's really a tough one because we haven't seen him. We haven't heard about, is he coming back from his injury? We don't know. We have no information there. Okay. We don't know coaching. All we know is they got a pretty good young quarterback there and a lot of work to do. So I don't know. My problem with him is he's not going to come in and be a bell cow back right off the bat. Okay, I'm not sure he ever was going to be. James Robinson coming off injury, he's not going away. He's good at football also. Okay, so I don't know. I like him. I own a lot of him. There's just big unknowns about him, Alan, to be honest with you. I don't know enough yet. Okay, we haven't seen anything from him yet.
So what Nelson's saying right here, I think, and Nelson's a sharp dynasty player. Again, him and I have conversations offline. That's going to reflect what a lot of players think. So hence the buy low. Now, is there risk involved? Yes. But that's why. So you may not even have to give up an aging Derrick Henry. You might be able to put together, you could. Okay, how about Gabriel Davis came on strong? His market value is high right now. All right. And again, whether you believe in Gabriel Davis or not, but right now, Gabriel Davis, who you got in the 4th round of your rookie draft that year, right? I think the Travis Etienne owner is going to be interested in a player like that. And that's a buy low, because the positive narrative on someone like Gabe Davis is 4 touchdowns in that final game. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 with Josh Allen for the next, half decade. So you may not even have to go that high, but with the market uncertainty, I think there is a buy low window. But with anything that's buy low, there's always going to be risk.
There is. And the problem is, depending on what owner you're dealing with or where you're going to draft him, I think there's a big range of outcomes there. Okay. I just think some people are valuing this guy, really, really high. Some people get impatient, as we all know in Dynasty. I'm not sure where I am, and I'm probably somewhere in between there. I'm buying him wherever I can buy him, but it is a little bit of a dart, though. Good pedigree, good player, but coming off injury, and we've just heard nothing.
Yeah, which by the way is why he's a buy low, because the minute the news breaks that he's amazing, looks great in practice, and then the Twitter video comes out of him breaking someone's ankles.
Right.
Then the buy low window's shut, and you're not getting him at all. So if you want to take the gamble, January is the time. February is the time. Would you trade? Okay, but you're not as high on him. All right, so give me your next buy low. And by the way, I just have to fix a light while you're doing it. So I'm going to get up, and I still can hear you, but talk to me your next buy low while I fix this one light here.
So another guy that really, really interesting guy here. Ton of talent, really hasn't done anything. Rushed this year for 770 yards, 29 receptions this year on a full-time running football team. And I think the coach is starting to believe in this guy. I'm a buy low on Miles Sanders. This guy's got just a ton of talent, Alan. Got a little bit of a problem with Kenneth Gainwell behind him, but
your guy, Kenneth Gainwell, that's your guy.
Well, I like them both. The good thing there is, even if it's a 60-40 split next year, they're going to be a running team. They're not changing who they are. They're just not. With that quarterback there, they're always going to be a running team as long as he's the quarterback. Sanders continues to get hurt, can't stay on the field enough. If he's able to put a full season together, I think he's a top 12 running back on that offense because of volume and how much they run the ball. And I think you get him dirt cheap this year, just dirt cheap.
Dirt cheap. You want to take a guess in this startup where he went? You're talking about Sanders, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing round 8.
Round 10, man. Round 10 in a Superflex.
10 falls under dirt cheap.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to give up your rookie 112, it's a no-brainer for the guy who's wants to give him away. Miles Sanders dynasty managers want to give him to you. I love that pick. There's not going to be a better buy low than a 24-year-old running back with high pedigree.
You know how many touchdowns he had this year?
It's only because we talked about it on your podcast. Right. It's 0. Right. I know. Yeah. 0. And that's all. I would have not known that. I would have guessed 3 or 4, but because we talked about it on your podcast. By the way, did you not do a podcast last week? I was a little upset. I look forward to your live stream. Did you guys not do one last week?
I did not do one last week. We were preparing with my my very special guest coming on. We're going to be doing one Monday.
Yeah, promote your podcast right now. Like, let's before we do our next buy low and get Fawny over
Dynasty Depot live-ish. We're streaming on everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. It's a really good show. As you know, you were a guest on last week. Because we had to move our show to Monday next week with our very special guest. So we are doing a rookie, and I think this guy's probably one of the best out there. I don't know if you know John Laub at all.
Of course.
Yeah. So he's coming on. We love him as a guest, and we're doing
John's a big Senior Bowl guy, right? He does some.
He really is. He's really good at what he does, and we're going to have a rookie introduction show next week. So start introducing these rookies and who he's looking at, who he's scouting. So that's why we didn't do a show. It's Dynasty Depot live-ish, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. It'll be Monday at 8 o'clock next week, a week from today at 8 o'clock. And we're pretty excited about it. We're prepared.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. I'll be tuned in for that one. If I miss the live because I'm old and I go to bed at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock nowadays, I will certainly be catching the replay the next day. You know what I also think you should do? Because I think you guys should take the audio of these videos and put them in a podcast, because I would love to listen to those on a podcast. I'm gonna have to talk to you offline about it, because I mean, you listen to a million podcasts, right? I mean, all right, we'll get into that.
Listen, whatever you say is what I do. So
all right. Because I mean, you're only going to gain, you're only going to gain listenership by that. You're doing the hard part. You're doing the video. Most people just do the podcast part and skip the video. So yeah. Anyway, we'll talk. So have you dove into rookies at all lately? I mean, are you starting to do your first pass yet?
Barely a first pass. With Dynasty Depot opening 2 weeks ago, it's been, I guess we call
hectic.
It organized chaos.
I love that. Organized chaos. That definitely describes you guys, which, by the way, you would not know unless you pulled back the curtain. You would not know, because DynastyDepot.com and how you run the site and how it looks like a well-oiled machine. There's never a problem. The transactions, you know what? I want to hold that because I really want to talk about Dynasty Depot. I'm passionate about it. So we'll have that whole conversation in a minute. Let's continue on. I'm here with Nels V, Nelson Verbit from DynastyDepot.com. And we are talking about buy low running backs. Miles Sanders was your last. I don't think I'm going to do better than Miles Sanders. There's no one that defines buy low better than Miles Sanders. I don't have him on my list, but I'll just bring his name up. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire buy low, or is it stay away? We talked about him a little on your pod.
I'm extremely out on that guy.
Okay, so would you sell low if you had him on your roster?
If somebody gave me 112 for him right now, I'd take it in a minute.
Not going to happen. Would you sell? Would you move him for like a second and a third round pick, like 2, 4, and 3, 4? Would you?
No.
Okay, so he's stuck. No, he's stuck in the trade dead zone where he's
in the dead zone.
Yeah, I mean his upside is just so it's the ceiling is so low, isn't it? Versus what you thought you were getting.
I think that's the problem. You know what you bought. You know, you bought the hype, right? You bought the Chiefs hype. Realistically, the Chiefs don't run the ball. Okay, the quarterback runs the show there, and they're not looking to run the ball. And the quarterback likes to throw it downfield because he's got stuff to throw downfield to. I'm out on him.
Okay,
I don't think he's nearly as talented as we thought he was.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, again, that he kind of jumped ADP. He was the consensus RB4. No one had him higher than 3. I'm sure most people had him at 4 or 5 when he came out. Yeah. And, you know, he went up to the RB1 just because of landing spot, which sometimes, you know, that's a reasonable process. But it didn't seem right, especially, and
Even
it's been,
if he stayed healthy, okay, and they made him, you are the bell cow, you're out there every play. He's still not going to be able to support RB1 numbers in that offense. It's not available. Okay, it's not available. And Reid, listen, I've seen Reid, for years. And
talking about Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, the butcher of clock management himself cost himself. By the way, did you see what I posted on Twitter yesterday?
Which tweet?
Andy Reid, I believe I posted yesterday, is 3-6 in championship games. Yeah. 4 of them heavy favorites at home. He's lost.
Yep. No,
because I was at a couple of those games personally, but he's just not a good sideline coach at all. That first half, end of the first half, cost him that game yesterday. But that we'll move on from him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah,
I don't think any running back can be supported there. That is a plug and play. You're looking at Jerick McKinnon back from the dead.
Yeah, Jerick, no one ever questioned his skills. It was his durability, So he's going to be an interesting buy low candidate because right now his value is elevated. But if somebody has them on their roster, and I mean, you offer to be a second round pick for Jerick McKinnon, not knowing if he's going to be signed back then, I'm going to give him to you. So if you believe that Jerick McKinnon is part of the 2022 game plan, he's an interesting buy low.
He is, and then Reid's main guy out there is Williams. Darrell Williams, I mean, loves him. Okay, if he wasn't hurt, he'd be getting all the carries right now. But even all the carries isn't enough carries out there. It's not enough out there. And my last thing on Alara, when he came out of college, okay, I looked at him.
You're talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, right?
Right. I looked at him because from watching everything at LSU, watching all the games, blah, blah. I thought he was a great receiving back. Great. And I thought, in the NFL, he's going to catch 6-7 passes every game, rush for 50, 60 yards. Mahomes, the problem is Mahomes looks down. He's downfield, man. You saw it's a struggle for him to throw a 10-yard pass. Mentally, it's hard for him to do. When you got Hill zipping around and all those guys. So the running back's just not ever going to be big in Kansas City during this offense.
Which, by the way, is counter to the narrative why everyone drafted Helaire. You want the running back in Kansas City. So that's interesting. Because when McCoy was there, was McCoy a big pass catching running back?
Never a thing. He was never a thing.
All right.
He was never a thing.
Moving on. My next, we're going to do one more each, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Dynasty Depot, the eBay of Dynasty Fantasy Football.
We are.
All right. I still like Aaron Jones's buy low, and I have him in the RotoWire rankings. I have him below AJ Dillon for Dynasty, and again, non-sexy, but I still think he's a good player. And this buy low, I saw your head shake like it's like almost like you ate a flavor of ice cream that wasn't your favorite.
No.
Okay, because I think the market is going to be down on him. They're going to look around and they're going to see AJ Dillon above him in a lot of sharp Dynasty rankings. Yeah. They're going to have this uncertainty if Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the team. And that's why I think there's a buy low window. Because if Aaron Rodgers signs back with the Green Bay Packers for one more go around, his value goes up and it's going to be more difficult to get him on your roster. So this is the time, because even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign back with the Packers and he's traded to Denver or wherever he goes, Aaron Jones is going to be a featured piece of the offense, even if it's Jordan Love. And he's still a productive guy, 27 years old. That's still in the late peak of his powers. And I think that you can make offers that are, to even contenders that want to get him off your roster. So if you have a rookie pick somewhere in the middle of the draft and you think you can make the playoffs and make a run, I don't mind giving up pick 1-8, 1-9, 110 for Aaron Jones. But since this is a buy low, you might be able to get him. I would trade Clyde Edwards-Helaire for him. We just talked about him right now, right? I mean, if someone wants youth and they want to trade him in, I'm in on Aaron Jones as a good productive player over the next 2 years. Your thoughts on that? And then I want to hear your last buy low player.
I love him.
Oh, good. I thought we were going to not be simpatico here.
We are. Not only do I love him, he is so good.
Do you agree he's undervalued, though, by the market?
Undervalued because he's only on the field probably 60% of the plays, okay? As a receiver, and this guy can go into the twilight of his career to 30, 31 years old as being the top receiving back for somebody. He's great, okay? He's a game changer. He's great. He doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on him, okay? Jamal Williams, another guy who I like, not for this show, but just a good football player. 40% of the carries when Jones is there. Dylan, 40%. He's not a bell cow there. He's never has been, yet he still produces top 5 RB numbers doing that because the man is dynamic out of the backfield. Okay, so I love him. You talk about him or Elliott, we can't even have that conversation as far as.
So who would you rather have? Because
Aaron Jones.
Oh, I had that choice on the clock recently, and I chose Elliott, but it was only because there's a year difference in the insulation. But all right,
he's a great player, and if you can pick him, especially if you're a contender, I don't care if Jordan Love's a quarterback because
I don't either.
Dump the ball off. Anybody can dump the ball off. He is dynamic player with not as much wear and tear as people think because of his age, and I think Dylan's a really good player also. But I don't care. I love him.
Fair enough. All right, so I want to make sure we get to talk about Dynasty Depot in a meaningful way. So, do you have any other? And I also want to talk about our fantasy football cliches, which we're going to have to.
I'll give you one more quick one.
Yeah, you're talking about a buy low. Your last buy low running back that you have to get off
right now. I don't believe I'm going to say this, but I think I'm a believer. I think Devin Singletary is a really good buy low coming in this season. He figured it out a little bit.
Yeah, but again, I love him, but I think he's going to be a 4th round redraft pick next year, and he might be buy low in a sense where the dynasty managers might say, "Hey, they've never really committed to Devin Singletary," so it's a sharp play, and some people are going to go for it, but I think that another week from now, another month from now, forget about it. Devin Singletary is going to be the starting running back in week 1. I don't know how long it'll last.
Where did he go in your Superflex draft?
Very late. I got him in like the 9th round of the Superflex. So that's about the 6th round of a real, but that ADP is on the rise. So buy low for now. By the time I publish this podcast this afternoon, he might not be.
Correct.
So, okay, I'll buy into that. But I guess my pushback on that is that I'm trying to buy high on him. I am in because buy high.
I'd be careful there. There's a little bit of a fine line where I'm taking him.
I'm giving up my, basically any rookie pick after the first 4 for him. I'll give up rookie 1.6 for him. No problem if I need a running back.
I'll sell him to you for 1.6.
Right. Oh, is that? Well, then, it's, but you just said, but the point is that might be his value, but you don't have to pay that. You probably.
The problem is we saw 5. First of all, surprisingly, the guy rushed for 977 yards. Okay, I would have never guessed that. Okay,
but it's that last month of the season, Nelson. That last 5 weeks.
I get it. So that I think what you just said is the golden ticket there. We saw it for a month. Okay, is that going to carry over next year? Are they going to draft somebody by accident because somebody falls to them? I'd be careful of him right now, but it's somebody that's been sitting as your RB5 for the last 2 years on your roster. It's kind of nice to own him right now.
All right. Let's talk a few. This is like a little bit of a fun segment, and that was great, by the way. I love those buy low running backs because it's so hard to get running backs, and if you target any of those guys, I think that you can get them. They're at least gettable, which makes them buy low. All right, let's talk about fantasy football cliches. Let's do like 1 or 2 of these each. Things that you hear everyone say on social media about fantasy football that it just blows your mind. Like, we'll examine these cliches that they just stick in your craw, man. What's your first fantasy football cliche that we could tear apart?
Well, I don't know if it's a cliche, but it's a term.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I hate it. Handcuff. Hate it.
Well, why do you hate that? I mean,
hate it. Because there's about 2 in the dictionary of handcuff. There's about 2 of them. Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison. There's no other handcuffs out there. Okay, right. There's no such thing. Who's Josh Jacobs' handcuff? You're picking Devontae Booker, Barkley's handcuff. He's not a handcuff. Okay, a handcuff is somebody that can come in and almost replicate the exact numbers that the guy had. Okay, there's very few of them. I handcuffed him with Justin Jackson. Okay, it's not a handcuff.
Right.
Okay?
A handcuff would imply a 1-to-1. Like this player we know is going to get the workload of the starter, even if it's 80% of the production.
Correct. And exactly what you said. Going to get the workload of the guy that he came in. Okay. There's a lot of handcuffs. Even when Justin Jackson came in, when Eckler got banged up, okay, Kelly's getting a bunch of carries. He didn't get the Eckler workload. Okay. Right. Pollard would get the Elliott workload. Okay. Dylan would get the Jones workload. Madison, we see, gets the Cook. But people throw that term around handcuff. It's crap. I don't like it.
I love that one. That makes me laugh. Do you think Khalil Herbert is a handcuff to David Montgomery this year? Is he a 1-to-1? Could we bank on him to get
Khalil Herbert is a handcuff.
All right. So would you now, in Dynasty startups, does he belong in that Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison range?
Maybe a round or two later, but yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know why he's a handcuff? Because when Montgomery was out, he got 25 carries in games. That's a handcuff and produced close to Montgomery numbers. That's a handcuff. Yeah. Too many people out there. Joe Mixon's handcuff, Samaje Perine. No, he's not the handcuff.
Right.
It's not a handcuff.
Because you're not going to be proactively starting. Right. You're not going to proactively start Samaje Perine.
Correct.
Whereas if Dalvin Cook, if you have a chance to start Madison Pollard, you're proactively starting those guys. They're going to be ranked in the top 12 for that given week.
Correct. That's a handcuff to me. Okay. There's 32 teams out there. There's about 5 handcuffs.
Fair enough. And you know what? That's probably a good dynasty topic that we should do is buy low handcuffs. I think we should do that one time. We'll have you back to talk that through.
The last thing I'm going to say on that. There is no such thing as a wide receiver handcuff. Okay. And you hear that sometimes. Oh, I got KJ. I got him cuffed with Jefferson. No, you don't. Okay. Jefferson's Jefferson. You're never going to get the target. Again, the handcuff is the guy going to get the workload.
Yes. You just hit the nail on the head here. It's not the guy who comes in and gets the snaps. It's the one who you could project for a similar workload. That's it. That's what a handcuff is. I think we just uncovered that and solved that issue. Handcuff means similar workload, and then hopefully the production follows. A wide receiver is not going to...
Honestly, in my mind, is the handcuff coming in. If Cook's an RB1, is Madison coming in as an RB1? The answer is yes. Okay. If Zeke goes down, Pollard is going to get RB1. He's going to replace Zeke. It's not the guy that he's a handcuff and then I'm playing him in a flex. That's not a handcuff. That's a backup getting some opportunities and getting some carries this week. Justin Jackson, not the handcuff.
All right. I've got time for one cliche from me, and then I'm going to talk about what you do with Dynasty Depot, because I think it's really important for Dynasty players to hear. We've heard this one a million times, but best shape of his life. Okay. So this offseason, beware of best shape of his life tweets, because it's related to Dynasty because it boosts Dynasty value. If we start hearing that a player that has been, let's call it disappointing for fantasy football, is in the best shape of his life, I think a lot of fantasy football players are smarter enough to know now not to fall for that one, but I still fall for it, and I know it's coming. So I'm trying to think of a player that has been relatively disappointing. Okay, let's say this year, we know everyone loved Terry McLaurin coming from last year, but he had a down year this year. It could be quarterback really. Allen Robinson. Let me use that one instead. But Allen Robinson has rededicated himself to football. He's in the best shape of his life. Michael Thomas, beware. Don't change your valuation because of this social media tweet by Beat Reporter X. Take the evaluation by situation. Who's the coach? Who's the quarterback? What's their role? Don't fall for these best shape of their life. These guys are elite athletes. They're all in the best shape of their life. You with me on this one?
Yes. But when somebody said somebody's in the best shape of their life and they're in their 5th year, I'm questioning them. Where the hell were they the other 4 years? They weren't in the best shape of their life. That's a problem.
Right. My best shape. Yeah, that totally. But just be aware of those, that's a cliche that doesn't mean anything. It's situation, coaching, quarterback, all that kind of stuff. All right. Let's talk about Dynasty Depot. For those of you who are not familiar with Dynasty Depot, and that's why Nelson's here. He's not here for his health. He loves talking to me. I love talking to him, but he's here because he has an important product that I think is going to be useful to you. And that is the ability to buy and sell dynasty teams on the FFPC platform. For those of you who aren't familiar with FFPC, it's a high stakes fantasy platform. So Nelson, let's start. Just give me the elevator pitch. If somebody said to you, hey, you got 45 seconds to tell me what you do and what Dynasty Depot is, what's the pitch?
Dynasty Depot is the eBay for fantasy football teams. It was created to give you something to do in the off season. Currently, there are over 500 teams for sale on my site.
DynastyDepot.com, by the way, right?
DynastyDepot.com. We have sold 600 fantasy football teams, have traded owners in the first 3 weeks that we've opened. Okay, it's an auction site. There's a reserve. It's run like eBay, a reserve, a buy it now. The coolest thing about Dynasty Depot is, and I got a call from a customer the other day. He bought a $77 team for $20. Okay. He made 2 trades. He sold that team he bought for $20 for $150, making 2 key trades. Sold it. Now he's moving up into a $250 league. It was a cool conversation. It's a way to step up. Hey,
I mean, that's what Dynasty Depot is. That example
I saw a $500 team this weekend. I saw one sell for $29. And I saw a $500 team sell for $5,000 this week. Okay.
Wow.
So people are getting 7, 8, 9, 10x on some of these teams that are just these crazy teams. It's a way to make money. Are you good at drafting? Well, when the maiden season opened, people draft teams and sell them for profits. It's a stock market for fantasy football.
Let me stop you there. So I can go on to FFPC. I can sign up for a maiden draft. Just their minimum buy-in is $77. I can go buy a $77 team. I think I'm good at doing startups. Everyone does. Then I draft this amazing, and let's say it's not even like my guys, but I know what the market values is this youth. So I go in there and I have this amazing youth draft.
Right.
You're saying I could put that team up on Dynasty Depot and within a couple days, a month, a week, if it's appealing to someone, they might pay me $125, $150 for that same team because it's already set.
People day trade teams all day on my site when the drafting starts. Right now, it's people's teams. So, yeah, like we talked about how many teams I have, 83 teams. Well, how do you deal with it? Well, I'm constantly buying and selling teams, upgrading, buying teams at value. Nobody knows what goes on behind the computers. Nobody knows anybody. Hey, I want to get out of these leagues. I got some financial issues. Let me just move out of it. Hey,
time issues. Yeah.
Time issues. Oh, I'm doing great right now. Let me get into a $1,250 league. See if I could find one for $500. It's on DynastyDepot.com. It's everything you want.
So I love this, and I love the concept of it, and it's fun, you know.
It is.
We're the other thing. So there's a small cover charge to get into Dynasty Depot. There's 3 levels of membership. Just briefly talk about what the 3 levels are and why, and what the appeal of each level is, and also for our listeners today, you're going to give them a promo code with a discount.
Right. I'm gonna not confuse anybody.
Okay.
So our rookie level gives you buy, sell. But let me tell you, with any membership you get, we have our
How much is the rookie membership cost?
For you, Alan, today, $20.
Okay. That's what the discount code.
Alan, discount code Alan 20.
ALAN 20.
You're so big now, you got your own promo code. It's amazing. Alan 20. I'll repeat it again. Alan 20. Click on rookie. Go to DynastyDepot.com. Click on rookie membership. Alan 20. Now, quick story. Every membership, every team you buy on Dynasty Depot hits our leaderboard. We add up your points from the team you bought this year, and we gave away $10,000 in prizes. We gave away 4 FFPC main event seats. A guy bought a $77 team. He won a main event seat. Paid $77 for his team, won his league, won a main event seat. He's going to Vegas. We're sending him to Vegas. So every team you buy, there's other perks. You have to go to DynastyDepot.com, look up leaderboards. Just go onto the site. You can see all the teams. Don't buy
That was my question. That was my question. Can someone
go to DynastyDepot.com, click on list of teams. All of a sudden, 500 teams are going to load with filters. Filters if you want to filter it by multiple first-round draft picks, by Superflex, best ball. Filter it, look at it. If you like it, go to memberships, pick rookie membership. Go Allen 20, all one word, Allen 20 with the number 20. $20, you're good for a year. You're all the way through next year. DynastyDepot.com.
I'm going to need my membership re-up, Nelson. And, you have to – I want to get in there this year a little bit. So.
I know you.
Yeah. I know a guy. All right, man. As usual, you did it again. You came with the fire. I love talking to you, and just you're going to be back as a regular guest. I'd love to have you back in a few. Once you get into your rookie study a little bit. I just started a month ago. RotoWire just did a rookie mock draft. It's in the publisher's. It's in the editor's hand. We're going to be putting it out. You're going to be shocked to see. So myself and 10 other RotoWire writers and Shane from the Flex Network, we did a rookie mock Superflex, and you're going to get your first look at our pre-draft rookie dynasty mock draft. I had the 1-1 pick. I did not take a quarterback. I looked at the quarterbacks, and again, it might change if someone takes a quarterback in the top 5.
Did you take it 1-1?
I took Breece Hall. Who profiles as a 3-down runner. I had Cody Carpentier from Player Profiler on this podcast last week. He likes Breece Hall too. He's going to be the consensus 1-1. Or at least the first running back. So, we'll get into all that. All right, man. I'm with Nels V. You can find him at the Dynasty Depot on Twitter. Go to DynastyDepot.com. I'm at Alan Seslowsky, and we'll be back next week with another Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast.